Darnell Ford. I'm 39 years old. Born in Chicago, Illinois. Raised in Gary, Indiana. From a large family. I have 6 sisters and 4 brothers. Very large. I did well in school, so I'm kind of a smart guy. I always think I'm like the smartest person in the room. This could be any room, corporate America, construction site, it doesn't matter. Um, I feel like I'm a very quick learner, very determined, ambitious, funny. Funny, I keep the jokes rolling. Yeah.
That's always good.
Father of 2. Um,
Let your wife introduce herself, and then I got some questions for you.
Okay, I am Jeannie Ford. I am 35, born and raised in the Central District of Seattle. I come from a pretty medium sized family. I am wife to Darnell and a mother of 2. And yeah.
Okay. So Darnell, you are grew up in Gary, Indiana, and you're from a family of 10. Where do you fall
um, I was raised with 2 brothers
in?
and 2 sisters,
Okay.
and I'm right in the middle of those 5. The other, my other siblings grew up in other areas. Like
Okay.
I have some brothers and sisters that grew up in Michigan, and some sisters that grew up in Chicago. So
Okay.
in Gary, Indiana, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and I'm right dead smack in the middle.
I have this theory about people who grow up as middle child. They're end up usually being like free thinkers and really like go getters. So that doesn't surprise me at all. That that's kind of where you were. That in that smack middle of that. The lady I interviewed last week, she was the same exact thing. So it's my mom told me about that because I have a son who is a middle child. It's kind of very different from my other children.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm a middle child, so I kind of get it. So it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you?
So I'm the oldest.
The oldest. All right.
Yes,
all right.
and I have kind of an interesting family dynamic. I grew up with one sister and one brother, and then my dad has a couple of kids. I believe there's 4. So I'm the oldest daughter, granddaughter, and it's pretty awesome most of the time because I get to be bossy. But then in other aspects of my life, the whole controlling thing becomes an issue. So, yeah.
I can understand that. All right. All right. So what was it like? We're gonna start with you. What was it like growing up? What was your household like?
So my mom was really strict, Christian household, single parent. My grandma played a huge role in my childhood and my adulthood as well. And I just remember being taught to do the right things and make good decisions, but that did not keep me from the lifestyle that I would later live. Yeah, I remember feeling different than everybody else and not really feeling like I fit in if I was smart enough or pretty enough. And so that caused some self-esteem issues.
Okay. But we're gonna come back to that because I think that's very interesting that you
Yeah.
said that. All right. What was your childhood like, Darnell?
Gary, Indiana is no joke. It's just a rough place to grow up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people may know that. My neighborhood was, full of gangs and violence and drugs, poverty. Um, but it is what it is. When you don't know nothing else, you just know. So we just grew up in there. We just tried to just get through life. But the downside of my childhood was my home. My dad suffered from drug abuse and alcohol abuse. He was very violent. He did his best, I like to think, to raise 5 kids and provide for us and try to keep us safe. Looking back at it now, after having had an addiction, I like to think he tried his best because he was facing a monster, but it was hell. It was rough most of the time. I was scared at home and I was scared in the streets, so there was a lot of fear gripped me during my childhood. So.
And I find that's interesting to me because you also said you were a good student. How did it with a home environment like that, and then an environment in the streets like that? How were you able to even, have that be of a focus for you?
But it was creativity, I guess. I would just try to find things to escape the realities. School was one of them. It was cool. It was really cool. Different subjects I could, if I thought hard enough, or if I applied myself mentally hard enough, I could actually escape reality. I've learned that at a really young age that if you put your mind, if you focus on something, I think kids do it with video games now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not even aware of the reality that's going on around them because mentally they're somewhere else. I did that as a child in school. I didn't set out to get good grades. I just set out to kind of like go somewhere other than here.
Right.
And as a result, I did well. Oh, I understand this stuff. I visit there quite often. Biology, and chemistry, and English, and math. Math was my favorite subject. Yeah, and I did real well.
That's cool. That's cool. See, and that's that's beautiful to hear because most of the time people let environments like that when you got it both at home and in the streets. You're like, man, how you gonna focus? So
Yeah.
for you being able to use that as an escape is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I want to come back to what you said about growing up in a strict home. So growing up in a strict home, it was what was it like? You couldn't hang out with friends. Like, what was that? Give us that experience. What was that like?
Yeah, so my mom definitely had the curfew. She also had the whole like, Mom, can I go spend the night at so and so's house? Well, I need to meet them. Who are their parents? Like, my mom was very much involved in where we were at, who we were hanging with. I was constantly on restriction. If I even dare skip class, my mom would be up at the school. Like, it was, it's crazy to think that I could live the life that I lived having a mom like that. Like, she was no joke. And she just did the best she could. I think that she knew some of what could happen to us if we chose to live a certain way and wanted to prevent us from doing that. But, man, my siblings and I, we just kind of did our own thing. I mean, I think part of it is just being like a teenager and trying to explore. But I just happened to find drugs and alcohol, and it just made things really bad. So
Okay.
yeah.
And so we've kind of hit on that you both seems like you guys were introduced to that kind of early. So I want to ask. First, I want to come back to something you just said because I find it interesting. One of the things that I've been reading and kind of just clicked in my head is about the scarcity mentality. And what happens is they were using parents as an analogy. They try to protect their kids from all these different things. And those are the things that the children end up wanting to do the most because the parents basically put like a forbidden sign. You should never do this. And then the kids say, well, if this is forbidden, I need to find out why. And so, and I found that very interesting. So you hear this story a lot where, kids grow up in church. I grew up in church too. So, and then you kind of like, well, you could make that decision, things kind of go a different way. So I want to start with you and ask, what age did you get introduced to like drugs or alcohol, whatever it was? What age was it for you?
So I don't remember the age, but I remember being in 8th grade.
Okay.
So I'd either 13 or 14.
Wow.
And my friend was smoking weed, and she was like, "You want to hit this?" And at first I was like, "Oh no!" I remember that whole like dare thing was like in my head, and but I hit it anyway because why not? And I remember feeling extremely paranoid, and like stuff was on my face, and people were looking at me, and all that. But I felt different for the first time in my life. Like there was a substance that made me feel different. I didn't feel anxiety. I didn't feel uncomfortable. I had none of those like negative feelings I always felt, like awkwardness and stuff. And I smoked again. So that was my first experience with weed. And then I remember being in 9th grade and like all the like pretty cool girls were drinking. And I was like, I want to do that. And my first experience was with the 211, and it was horrible and it was so disgusting. But I was like a part of the cool group, and it just got bad. I used to drink like maybe every other day in high school. We would show up at like the drug and alcohol assemblies drunk and think we were so cool, and it's like that was my life.
Okay, now during this time, did your mom ever figure out that you were drinking or high during that time?
Oh man, So on one occasion, yeah, my mom was like no joke. So she found out I was smoking weed in her house and called the police on me,
Mm.
and wanted the police to teach me a lesson. So I got brought down to juvie and stuff. And my mom just didn't play that. She was like, "You're gonna get my house taken away." My mom did the absolute best I believe she could. She's doing this on her own with like my grandma's help, and she has my sister and brother who had some similar issues, but I was off the hook. And she's often leaving work early to come and handle my mess. I had a house party one time, and that was a mess. The police came, and there's alcohol in the house. Like, we're underage and just horrible stuff. So my mom would do like measures like that, or like restrictions. She used to lock the phone up from us. And I think what it is that there needs to be like open conversations in homes about drugs and alcohol. Like, you can't just, instead of just the whole like don't do drugs and leaving it there, like why not do drugs? And like, thankfully, like Darnell and I have lived this life. So to our kids, like, here's why you stay away from drugs and alcohol. Like, yeah, weed sounds like a cool idea. Alcohol sounds like a cool idea until it's not. These are the consequences. So having a conversation and making people feel comfortable to come talk to you if they're having an issue is like something I want to do. Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna come back to that. And Darnell, tell us, when did you first get introduced to it? What age were you?
When I was a toddler, man, my dad, our biological, me and two of my brothers, our biological mom gave us up. She lost us. She had a lot of mental health issues, and she was going through some domestic issues with men in her life. So my dad actually took us at a very young age. I remember being a toddler, or maybe 4 or 5 years old, and my younger brother, I remember him crying, and my dad putting Old English in the bottle and giving it to him so he would stop crying.
Wow.
And I can only imagine that, yeah, I was drinking some of that too. He probably used the same measure on me.
Yeah.
And he drank, like every night. He had a pint of scotch and a 40-ounce OE. And it was every night. And so, once in a while we go in there, I see it in the fridge. I crack the 40 and hit it. This is young, 7, 8,
Wow.
9. And all of my older brothers, right across the street, the kids I went to school with, they smoked weed. Their parents, it was like 8 or 9 of them in this little bitty house, and the older brothers would smoke weed and sell drugs, and they drank, and so it was just everywhere. It was just a way of life, I think. I don't think it really there was no like say no to drugs or nothing. It was just everybody in this community drinks, like barbecue picnics, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursday, every day.
Yeah, every day.
So. When I made the choice to actually hook up with some of my friends and go on lunch break to the liquor store with our little $2 chip-ins a piece to go get some Wild Irish Rose, I must have been in 11th grade at high school and said, you know what we should do? We should go up on a bottle.
Wow.
And then we found a wino in front of the liquor store, asked them to go get us a big gallon, half gallon of the Wild Irish Rose.
Yeah.
We take the liquor, we went off to some abandoned spot, and we drink it. We take turns, we pass it around, and we try to hit it. Who could drink the most without stopping?
Wow.
Kind of was the thing, and of course me, Mr. Overachiever, I had to show him.
Yeah.
I had to show him. Look, and then I like the feeling. We frequent that quite often. We did that a lot, and then little would I know that was a start. It was a better escape than actually books themselves for me. Yeah.
Now, when you were going through that, once you really started in on it, did that affect your studies, or was you still able to
absolutely.
maintain? Okay.
Absolutely. I looked through my high school transcripts, and my high school transcripts, you see 9th, 10th, 11th, like 3.5, 4.0 range.
Yeah.
And then that senior year, It was like 1.7, 2.2. It's like, what happened? I know what happened. I remember very well what happened. I remember taking tests and not even remember putting my name on the test because I was so intoxicated. So it was a lot of that.
Now in school, was there, did you ever like how did it affect? So your grades were suffering. Did you, but you still were going to school every day?
Yeah. My dad wasn't having that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you there, you drunk, but you gonna show up.
He
play the part.
He was a scary man. He was a scary man. I mean, high or sober, or drunk he was a scary man. He didn't really play. I was boxing. I was a national competitor at this time boxing.
Okay.
So we were getting fights often, but that was nothing different. No one noticed, in Gary, Indiana, everybody fought. Right. So it was like, this kid isn't different because he's fighting. All these kids is fighting. Yeah. So it wasn't anything strange about that. But my dad was not, he was a challenge. So even though I was fighting and I had respect, and I could fight, and it felt strong. I knew how to throw my hands, and he was still trying to like give us whoopings at like 15, 16 years old. But I wouldn't want to challenge him. He was like, man, I might win this, I might lose this, but it'd be better to just go to school.
Yeah.
So I just went to school.
There you go.
We'll figure it out when we get to school, but I'm not gonna like skip this school.
No. Yeah.
So,
okay.
That's how that was.
That makes sense. So for you, did it? Is there any point in time that you could point to where you could just be like, man, my grades just fell off because of the drugs and alcohol?
Mine was definitely college.
Okay.
So in high school, it's like you go high to class. It's just I didn't really feel that challenged in high school anyway, and so my teachers actually would think that I was high when I wasn't because I was always high. I mean, I don't know. It was just so weird. Like my body just became used to being stoned all the time, and I didn't really suffer any consequences other than like the occasional like call from school, and then my mom's really upset. But my grades, they were good enough to get me to college.
Okay.
So I could say that. Could I have done better? Absolutely.
Okay.
But I did just enough to get to UW. So.
Okay. So, all right. So you noticed in the college. Tell me what happened. Like, tell me what that was like.
Okay. So college was an amazing experience. First generation to go to a major university. So I felt very happy about that. There weren't a lot of us at the UW. So they put us in... like Office of Minority Affairs did a lot of stuff to try to get us used to like the curriculum, the new atmosphere. I mean, it was pretty cool. So that was helpful. But although I'm usually pretty shy around people, I found myself hanging out with people that I shouldn't have, and I got introduced to OxyContin, and that's pretty much where my life got really, really bad. And either I would be too loaded to participate in class because I'm nodding, or I'm so sick that I'm unable to make it, or I can't focus. And that's pretty much what happened to me.
Okay. So Darnell, did you finish? You finished high school, and then what happened next?
It's a long series of events. So I have a brother. My brother's name. He's my oldest brother. He's 11 years older than I am.
Okay.
The summers of 96 and 97, I spent those summers in Indianapolis, Indiana. And my brother, he was down there, and he worked for a van line, so he would drive the trucks, and I would go and I would work with him moving furniture. Under the table, to earn some money for school because we didn't really have jobs in Gary. But I worshiped my brother. We drank beer, while moving furniture, drank beer before, during, and after, and it was just cool. It was like I'm hanging out with bro, I'm making some money.
Yeah.
I'm getting out. I'm not in Gary. Then my brother, he had a great idea to start selling drugs, and and he was good at it. He sold a lot of drugs. In summer of '97, he was really good at it, and he sold a lot of drugs and introduced us to a different way of life, which was, one around guns and drugs and stuff. And then I made some money in '97. I went back to school and in '97, '98, and halfway during that senior year, because I graduated in '98, my brother got arrested by the feds. He caught a Fed case. They raided his house. They took all of his stuff. They disrupted his family. And his wife was pregnant with their third daughter, and so now she's battling. She has two little ones, and plus she's pregnant. I just finished high school. I barely finished high school. Now my addiction is taking off at this point.
Yeah.
I scraped by. I got into it with my dad in Gary, Indiana. One night I cussed my stepmom out. She told me to do something, and I told her, something very disrespectful. And I went to bed that night. I was woken up. My dad came in from work, working 3 to 11 at the steel mill. He came in. I guess she told him, yeah, your son in there, he told me this and this and this. He goes in his room, he grabs a gun, he comes to the bedroom, and he hits me in the head with it while I'm sleeping. I wake up, and I'm like, he's like, oh, you bad now. I remember looking at him, and I'm thinking, no, daddy, please, no. And I got my Superman drawers on, and and mind you, this is like 2 months before high school graduation. My brother's in some federal institution fighting for his life. I sneak out of the house backwards. Like, I'm like, daddy, please, literally begging him not to shoot me or hit me again or something. I get to the front door, and I run out the door. I leave the door, and then, like, as I get away, I'm like, F you, I hate you, doo-doo-doo, I ain't scared of you. And I'm running. This is pitch black at night. I'm in my drawers, no shoes on, and I'm running down the street. But this is Edna, Miller Edna, Gary, Indiana. And I hear a couple of shots. I hear, bah, bah. I don't know if my dad shot at me or if he was just doing some warning shots or what. But it scared me. I did not go back home. I went to my boxing coach's house. I went to my coach. His name's Rodney Chrysler. He now trains in Las Vegas at the Mayweather camp. I stayed on his couch, and I graduated high school from his couch. When my brother was sentenced, he was sentenced to 35 years in the federal penitentiary for his crimes. It was his third strike. And at this time, I was accepted to Purdue University to study business administration. My grades were good enough for that. But I was sleeping on somebody's couch, and I was like smoking weed, and I was stealing, and I was doing all this stuff. So I had two choices. I wasn't going to college. I could stay in Gary and try to box and battle this addiction, or I could move to Indianapolis. So my choice was go to Indianapolis and help your brother and his wife with the babies.
Okay.
And so that's what I did.
Okay.
And I went out there, and it was a different story. I got out there. I mean, I helped her out. I love her. Her name's Teresa. We met her like last year. I introduced my wife to her. My wife absolutely loves her. And the girls, they're grown now. When I got out there, though, he had a system, and there was like, oh, this is his little brother here. He's supposed to take over where he left off, and so there was a lot of pressures for me to start selling drugs to kind of fill the void that my brother had left with his incarceration. And I'm not a good dealer. Just put it that way.
Got you. Okay, so when you first found out that your brother was going away for 35 years, did you get a call? How did you find out about that?
I mean, everybody was talking about it, like from in 3 different states. It was like just pinging, going back and forth. It's like, oh, his arraignment's today. Oh, the trial is today. Oh, the sentencing is today. You know, like we all knew about it. And plus, he would call like nonstop on collect. Everyone he was trying to like raise money for an attorney and all the fees that associated with it. And he was trying to sell some of his property to like afford to fight the you know. So we were right. Everyone was informed about it. And I have two brothers too, so I saw them regularly. They would tell me what's happening at home, and so I stayed informed. Plus, it was like 2 blocks around the corner,
Okay, got you.
so I didn't like moving away. So.
Yeah, yeah. So how long after that night? How long was it before you spoke to your father again?
It was a long time.
Yeah.
It was a long time. I was in the San Francisco County Jail.
Mm.
It was 2003.
Mm-hmm.
I got arrested, and something about this arrest was a little different. I didn't run, for one. They had to. Usually when in San Francisco, I was just wild, crazy. It's a long story. We don't have time for me to tell you
All right.
about my time in San Francisco. Just know that I was out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. And the cops came on the block, and I usually just take off and run.
Uh-huh.
This time I just kind of sat there. I had drugs on me, everything, and I was just like, I guess I was just tired. I was just like, yeah, what's that? Whatever, man. Like, and then they came, searched my pockets. And then they just put me in the back seat, no handcuffs, nothing. It was crazy how it happened. They put me in the back seat. It was an undercover car, so there was no like. I mean, I could have bust one of them in the back of the head or anything. It was nothing. It was just I just sat there. They had the drugs, took me to jail.
Yeah.
I get to jail. I get booked. I get charged. Something said, man, write your dad and at least let him know you're alive.
Mm.
At least let him know, because I was out there taking real chances. A couple times I could have lost my life. And I did. And then I got a reply back from him and my stepmom, and it said like, oh, Darnell, so glad to hear from you, man. We love you. I'm sorry for all the things that's happened. We're praying for you. Changed my life. I was like, what? Really?
Mm.
About a week later, the psychiatrist comes to.
Okay, so you're just saying your cellmate, the OG, brought you the Bible. You looked at it and take it away from there.
Yeah. Sat in his cell. He saw me suffering. He offered me the Bible. And I don't know, just I had some clarity. I had a moment of clarity through my dad's death. Of course, they wouldn't let me leave from San Francisco to Gary to bury him, but yeah, that clarity that I had allowed me to see just where my life was headed. Just like I was gonna be dead before 25. That was gonna be a real thing for me, and I was okay with it. But for some reason, my dad's death, like, snapped me out of something, some kind of like hypnosis I was under, and I didn't like it anymore, and so I sought to change it. In San Francisco County Jail, they had like they had chaplains come in, they had AA, they had like they had an in custody treatment, all kinds of things. They had a drama class, a writing class.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the county jail in San Francisco. I went to all of it. I did all of it.
Yeah.
The whole time I was there, and I sought to try to change my life, to do something different. And I was released in 2004, February, and I enlisted into my first treatment center, which was Project 90 in San Mateo, California.
Okay.
February 2004.
All right, I want you to tell me about that experience, but first I want you to tell Jeanine, what was that? When did that moment come for you? His was in 2004, first treatment center for him. When did that moment come for you?
Well, after a whole bunch of bad stuff happening, including homelessness and like just horrible stuff.
Actually, you know what? Let's take a step back.
Okay.
Because we left off with you. You're in college.
Yeah.
You introduced the OxyContin. how does that? You said it started there. It started to spiral there. What take me through kind of what happens from there to you for you to even end up homeless? So,
Gotcha. So things got really bad. I ended up doing like a promise to complete. I graduated from UW doing the actual ceremony, but my addiction was so bad I couldn't complete the class. So I dropped out of college with 10 credits short of a bachelor's degree. And then I got fired from the place I was working at due to horrible behavior, including stealing and poor attendance. And that was pretty horrible. I had been there for 4 years. That was like the longest job I held at that time. And so living back, I think, at my grandma's house at this time, that I moved in with a boyfriend that was a total bad idea. And just making a series of bad choices. I ended up moving down to Portland and became a dancer, and just like crossing off all the nevers I said I do. And my whole mind was completely changed. And it's crazy because I grew up, I'm still a Christian, but it's like I had been so far removed from my contact with God because of the lifestyle I was living. So I didn't even know who I was anymore. And what happened for me is life got so bad. Like I got an eviction. I had like an abscess at one point. I was with another abusive boyfriend, and we slept outside because we had gotten put out of this laundry room that we were staying in, which is crazy. And I remember waking up like on top of this cardboard box in this open field and being like, I am pretty sure God does not want this for me. Like I for some reason, it's like all these other steps were happening, and it was like everyone else's fault, or either, well, it's not that bad, at least I don't do this or that. But for some reason, that very moment, I was like, oh my God, it just really hit me. Like, my life is horrible. Like, I've dropped out of school to come down here and pursue a dancing career. Come on now, a dancing career. And then, like, how I look, how I'm taking care of myself, this is not it. Like, there's absolutely no reason. Like, I'm chasing something to get well when we were born well. Like, I'm spinning my wheels trying to stay in this like perfect place that is caused by drugs. Like, how is that? It was all insanity. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just finally asked for help. So that was in 2011, and we described that in the program we're in as a moment of clarity. And that still is not the last time I used, though, but that was like the biggest, like, pivotal change moment of I have got to get my life together. So I don't know if you want me to go a little bit further.
Yeah.
So I spent some time going to like detoxes, and what's crazy for me is I'd go into detox like, well, I'm here for an opiate problem, and then they'd be like, but you drink. I'm like, well, I have to. It's my lifestyle. Like, and it was like in detox that they pointed out like, you're an alcoholic, and I was like, oh, what? Like, not me. Like, I'm here for something else. And so, but I was, and it's just alcohol so normalized in our society that it was kind of hard for me to fathom I was an alcoholic. But I definitely drank alcoholically, at least like a pint a day. But like I said, I was a dancer. Like, you just have to do what you got to do, and it's just crazy. The person I am today, I would never ever fathom doing anything like that ever. But that's where drugs and alcohol took me. But after detoxes, I would be in there. These meetings would come in. They'd always say you need to change things. Don't go back to the same environment. I'm like, no, that's for people that are worse off than me. I just need to do these 5 days. And within 24 hours of getting out every single time, I'm back to the same stuff every single time. So that was my experience. So in 2011, after going to detox a whole bunch of times, I finally called my family. I'm like, I've got news. I have a drug problem. They're like, right. Yeah, like, it's like pretty much like I was the last one to find out.
Yeah.
So my mom gets me a one-way ticket up here. I'm able to stay at her house just for a couple of days, so I get into treatment. I go into treatment. I get introduced to the pastor and his wife of Matt Talbot Center, and they have a home, and all you have to do is stay sober. And I was like, okay, I'm hopeless. My mom ain't going for it after a couple of days. Like, I'm going to do what they say. Yeah. And they required us to do a couple of things, and my life changed for the first time ever. I was able to maintain, I think it was 14 months of sobriety. I acquired a job. I went back to school. I obtained my bachelor's degree. I regained the trust of my family. I started to feel better about myself. I regained that contact with God, and life got better. And then this imaginary cape came out, and I shifted my priorities. So that's how I can really relate to the recovery over everything. So it's like as soon as I got like the job, well, I'm not gonna be able to do all those things that got me sober because I'm too busy. I've got to get to work, and then I get a boyfriend. Like, well, I got to do this. It's like you put in a whole bunch of stuff before my recovery, and we have this saying: anything you put before your recovery, you'll lose, and it's totally true.
Okay, so. And we're gonna come back to that.
Yeah,
Darnell, 2004, where you're in this recovery center. Take me through it.
Well, it was the first experience in California, in San Mateo. I didn't really know what to expect, but I'd been locked up so many times. It was just like new faces, new places. It's just kind of be quiet, get a feel for where you're at. I mean, when you're in Rome, do what Romans do. And that has helped me out a lot, and so that's what I did there. But I heard a lot of really good stuff. When I heard this man named Craig Williams, big black guy. He's the first person that I ever heard say. He said he would say it was so loud. Go to meetings, get a sponsor, and work the steps, and you will get a life. And I mean, he say it so much. I'll never forget it, man. I will never forget that, man. And then it sends shockwaves through me just to and then you it's a room full of 300 people and half of us is saying it with them because we know it so well. I wasn't interested in all of that at the time. I just wanted to do the little time, figure out like where I could get a job, because I was coming out of jail. I never had a place in the Bay Area, so I just need some time, some place to stay, some food, some place safe so I can make my strategize my way out of this. And sure enough, I did. I enrolled in San Mateo Community College. I got into college. I got a little job at the church. I was worked the front desk at the church. It was a large church. It was 5,000 members. They had plenty of work for us. And so I got a job. I was in school. Had some money. I got a place. I moved out and started renting a room from somebody on Craigslist. And it was good. I was okay now. I didn't really need the treatment, the program, or anything like that. And within 4 or 6 months, I was back drinking again, and things got worse. Eventually, I would end up in treatment center number 2 because I just wouldn't stop. I'd have to go to the bitter end in terms of homelessness, jobless, penniless. That's the only way I know that something has gone wrong. That's the only way that there's any indication that something has gone wrong.
No money,
no
pretty home. Clear indications.
It's like, wait, something is wrong.
Yeah.
I might need some help, and then I go back. So this has happened on 10 occasions.
10 occasions
since 2004.
Wow.
2004. One of those. I met my kid's mom. Her name's Luan. We got married. I met her at the church that I was working the front desk at. I met her at the church. We snuck away. We ran off. Everyone advised her not to mess with me. She was like, no, he loves God. And I do, man. I did love God. She saw the potential, but she didn't see the hell that was between that. And so we snuck off. We got married. We had 2 kids. And I stopped doing it, I did the program for a little bit, and then I got busy. I got these kids, I got this wife. I ain't got time for this program, man, Like, man, it's cool, man. Thank y'all for helping me out, man. I'll catch y'all out later. And sure enough, man, I was back drinking in no time, man. It's just something about, that by default, I will drink. If I'm not actively involved, just my natural state is to be drinking and using. So that's part of recovery of everything for me is that when things are bad, I pretty much know that I need recovery. But when things are good, I know that I need recovery now because recovery is first. It doesn't matter if it's a good day or a bad day.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I like that you say that no matter what kind of day it is, that both. So before you guys were in the place where you said, hey, if I'm doing good, I don't need it.
Right.
I'm okay. I can maneuver through life. But when I'm bad, okay, I definitely need it now. But now you're at the point that you understand that on those good days and those bad days, it doesn't matter. You still need it. It's still first.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like that. So, what was the day that you guys just said? What day was it, or what year was it where, this was the last time, here I am, and we're the time that led to where we're at now?
So it's crazy because today, 5 years ago, was the day that I
Wow.
went into treatment, hopefully for the very last time. My sobriety date is actually 7/18 of 2014. So tomorrow I'm celebrating the 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Congratulations.
I'm
That's
super
a big deal.
excited and I feel so blessed. And man, my life is so different than what I just described to you, and that's just like the overview. But
Yeah.
that was it. I was fronting. As somebody once said, like, you can't save your face and your butt at the same time. And I had been like fronting, like, I'm getting super skinny. People are like asking, like, you're losing weight, and I'm like, oh yeah. And they're like, no, like, are you okay? Like, it was like that bad skinny.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't able to be like, man, I'm struggling, man. I've messed up. Like, I need help. And so I just kept going around fronting, and I was in treatment and everything. Like, I was so bad, I was using someone else's urine to pass urinalysis. Like, it was so bad. And I finally called my counselor. I actually emailed her, and I was like, I need help. She called me right away. I was like, I need to go to detox, or I'm going to do something bad. Like, I just felt like this is getting really bad. And she picked me up and dropped me off at, it used to be RC Casey. It's now a recovery place, I believe. And that was it for me. Yeah. And I have not used any drugs or alcohol since then, like, at all. And I feel so good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So.
Darnell, what was that moment for you?
This one particular night, there's a guy, I know him. He's kind of a tough, but I like to drink. When I drink, I can fight, like sober or drunk. I've been in plenty of fights. But this one guy, he's just always like, I think that would be a good fight. This one day I got drunk, and he said something. He was like, man, those are my gloves. I said, those aren't your gloves. He was like, yeah, you stole them from me. I was like, why would I steal from you? You ain't got nothing. I just go to the store and steal from them. And then I was like, okay, here, since you call me a thief, how about we put the gloves here and whoever win the fight get the gloves? He was like, what you say? I was like, man, you heard me? And then he walked up on me, and I swung on him and hit him with everything I got. He buckled a little bit, but then he came back. He's a big guy. He's almost twice my size. I was really small at the time. And then he grabs me, and then I fall to the ground, and I remember he hit me. He hit me like in his eye. And all I remember is seeing stars, like, bang. I was like, oh, shoot. And he got me good. It was leveraged coming down, and so I reached in my pocket, and I pull out a knife, and I had a really nice knife. It was a Gerber. And I said, I can't take another one of those. And I'm not going to take another one of those. And so I don't know if he heard the knife come out or if he knew that I was serious. I'm not dying today. I'm not just going to take another one of those. So he was going to kill me or I was going to kill him in that night. And so what happened was he took off and he ran. He ran. He left. It was his cell phone, some money, all kind of stuff. I don't know how all this stuff fell out of his pocket, but he just took off running. And he probably saved mine and his life that night. But I did have trauma to my face, and it was Christmas night, December 25th, 2016. And I needed a doctor, man. It was so bad. It was like different colors. It was swollen. I had these dumb glasses on. They was blue, the blue tint. They were scratched up. They had scratches all on them. It was silly, man. And it was cold. Did I say it was cold? It was cold. My feet was cold. And I was hungry. And I thought about my daughter. They was having Christmas without me. And here I am in this van. With my eye. Hungry and cold. And I was like, man, I'm too old for this. And so I got out of the van and I started to go up the hill to go get myself something to eat. I ain't had no money, but I looked silly, man. Like my eyes messed up. And I started to go up this hill, and every step I took, it just felt like my head was about to explode. because the trauma, like it was just, and it was hard and it was cold, and I just didn't know what to do. I fell on my knees at the bottom of this hill, and I just started crying. I just started crying, and I remember, like after a minute or two into this crying, I started smiling. I did, because I knew that I had run to the end of myself. I knew that that was it. I knew that like, yeah, I'm done. Like I'm out of great ideas. Like it was like this moment that I had been broken, like completely. And so when I got off my knees, I walked. It was like an 8-block walk, and I walked it very, very carefully, but with so much joy to Matt Talbot Center. And I went to the Matt Talbot Center. This was December 20, 26 or 27. And I'd been there ever since.
Wow.
I finished their program the following December, and I still go back every day.
Wow.
Like not every day, but most of like at least once or twice a week to help the guys out there. That was the moment for me. I never forget. Sometimes I go to that hill, in that spot where I fell on my knees, and I just it's like a covenant or a monument. It's like the place where I run to the end of myself. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing that you were able to recognize it in that moment. There was nothing else left for you. You had you. This is it. You done been through everything. You survived that man's punch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like this was it. Your life in that moment, and for him to get up and run away at that moment where you might have stabbed him or he might have kept. You know, that's amazing for you to recognize. Okay, well, there's nothing more I need to experience now in this with this piece of my life. I've come to the end of my rope.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's an amazing thing. So let's get to you have been sober for a year. When did you decide to come up with the recovery over everything?
Oh, it wasn't even a year. It wasn't even a year. It was 6 months. It was 6 months into it, because if December 16 was when I started, so it was like May or June of 17. It wasn't even that long. Like I went in there and for like the first 2 months they thought that I was angry. I was really quiet. You know, my eye was messed up. I didn't like people. They thought I was angry. There was this is when Michael was talking to me. And when he got me to come out of my shell a little bit, he saw that, oh, this kid he's actually pretty smart. It's like I just thought he was violent and angry something, because I had this mug on my face all the time.
Yeah.
But then he got me to come out, and then we would crack jokes, and oh, he's pretty funny too. And so we had this rapport, and it just was like I was getting healthy. You know, my fog was being lifted. You know, I've had experiences with clean time before, but I didn't want this one to be different, because what had happened at the bottom of that hill was special to me. Was that I was really convinced that, like, man, I'm gonna be willing to do whatever it takes. So I knew I had to find somebody, but I wasn't gonna find anyone. So God sent me Michael Lewis, and Michael was the one who was able to talk to me. And I thank God. When a student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I was ready, and Michael appeared.
I like that.
And he's talking, and it just seemed like, man, these there was this desire to make this time real, to make it real. And then people would tell me how they did it. Like, I did it like this, I did it like this, I did it like this. And through all of my failures, I could always go back to this. When Michael said, man, you have to put your recovery first. When he said that to me, it rang so true, because anytime that I ever did put my recovery first, I had success. I got married, man. I had wonderful kids. I got accepted into UW also, and I dropped out. I got accepted to colleges. I got good jobs, man. I accomplished some things whenever I was in recovery, but whenever I put something else above it, all of it just fell apart. It just fell apart. So when he said that to me, it was like it just resonated in every cell of my body. It was like, that's what was wrong.
Yeah.
yeah, like I was excited. It was like I have to put this somewhere for me to see forever. Like
Yeah.
I have to do this as a constant reminder for myself. And so, man, I started sketching. I just started drawing. I was like, recovery is most important, or like I have a bunch of little sketches. I still have that little notebook, and then the one that said, it said recovery over everything, and I liked it a lot. And I did the sketch, and I would walk around with the man. God is good. God is so good because there's people that come to Matt Talbot Center that serve lunches.
Uh-huh.
We don't know who these people are. Some of them mortgage officers, pastors, churches, just people who want to volunteer and be good Samaritans, good stewards.
Yeah.
This one particular day, I'm sitting there with my notebook and I'm sketching. I'm talking to the guys. Yeah, man, this is gonna be tight, bro. This is tight.
Yeah.
And the lady says, "What do you have there?" I was like, "Oh, this is just this idea that I have. Recovery over everything. I know. I'm excited about it." Um, and she says, "Yeah, what are you gonna do with it?" I was like, "I'd like to like put it on some stickers or a T-shirt or something." And she says, "Yeah, well, I work for a graphic design company. I actually own a graphic design company." And I was like, "For real?" I was like, "Could you make this into a graphic digital thing?" She was like, "Yeah, you should come to my office." I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
And this was like the day after. Like I was like, I'm like,
Wow.
"What are you doing, God?" Like, cause that was nothing but God. Cause typically I wouldn't even talk to these people. Thanks for the lunch. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
this one was like, not like, "What do you do for a living?" Like, "Where are you from?" We don't talk like that. But
Yeah.
this one was actually like, she told me like what her name was, her business, like, and that never happens, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really like not interested in other people, but this particular day I was, and it turned out to be like a total godsend. Um, we digitized it. She hooked me up with a designer, a graphic designer. Him and I went back and forth. We did a few edits. I was like, "That's ugly. That's ugly. That's cool. Hey, can you change that?" And it was the logo she's wearing. I was like, "That's it."
Yeah.
And I made one for myself
Uh-huh.
as the constant reminder, um, because that's what it was, man. Like 10 treatment centers. I can't say that I had great success in recovery,
Mm.
but it was when I stopped recovery, stopped doing recovery, stopped going to the program, stopped going to meetings, stopped working with a sponsor, stopped helping people, stopped talking about like the things, the challenges in this world and the things that I'm dealing with, like that scared little boy from Gary, Indiana, always goes back to wanting to escape, like
Mm.
the reality. There's just I get scared, I
Yeah.
gotta escape. I know how to escape. Hennessy.
Yeah.
Or how
Yeah.
about some Heineken? Yeah, that'll work. And then it's all bad for me. I'm not the kind of guy that can have one beer and go to work in the morning. I might go to work tomorrow morning, but like a few mornings later, really, I'm just gonna disappear
Yeah.
because I'm really an addict. So if I stay away from that first one, just stay in recovery, life just gets great, man. Just
Yeah.
gets great.
Yeah. See, and I think that's the thing that's amazing to me hearing this story is the fact that not everyone can overcome what you guys have overcome, and you understand what the triggers are that will bring you back,
Mm-hmm.
and so really putting yourself in a position to go out there and do the things you need to do to keep you from going back, I think is the amazing piece of this all. And my question would be, as we wrap this up to you guys, would somebody who's struggling with this right now, what would you tell them?
Mm. First of all, don't give up. If you've messed up, dust yourself off and keep going. If you've been sober before, do the things that got you sober. Never stop doing them. If you can't seem to figure out why you're not staying sober, like do something different. If you want something different, you got to do something different. You only have to change. There's a whole bunch of them. You only have to change one thing, and that's everything. And I mean, whatever that is, you got to change it. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking. Um, ask God for help, pray, seek Him, be of service to others, find you sober friends, activities. Yeah, those are the tips I have. By you?
I mean, there's different levels. If I mean, there's so much is just so just a random person is that random person on the streets struggling with addiction for years, stuck in addiction, is that we do recover.
So I'm gonna ask you this. I asked you this earlier before we started the camera, and what would you like to see? What would you like to see recovery over everything go? Like I've seen on Facebook and stuff. I've seen, and actually, where can people purchase it too? Also, want to know that. I've seen on Facebook and stuff. Uh, all different types of people from all different types of walks of life wearing the shirts, the sweaters, the hats. I mean, I've seen it all, and I was looking like, damn, they really like working with everybody. You know, all different types of races, old, young. Yeah. Like it's a really beautiful and inspiring for me to see. And I was like, I gotta interview you guys because I really love that. So where do you guys want to see it go from
here? You know, so it man, this is literally all God, because this all started with the desire for me to stay clean. Mm-hmm. Like this was an attempt as a reminder for me to put my recovery first. As I wore my shirt proudly, like Superman with the S on his chest. I wore my like recovery over everything. Like, this is what I stand for, and I believe that if I live for this, that I'm gonna have a life, and I'm gonna have a life worth living. And it turned out to be true. And when people see the shirt, they be like, "What's that say on the back?" And there's definitions on the back. And it's like, "Oh man, that's a really cool shirt. Where'd you get it from?" I was like, "Oh, I made it. Can you make me one?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "You want one of these?" Like, yeah. So that's how the whole like selling T-shirts and merchandise and apparel came from. It was never sought out to be like this clothing line. It was just a personal reminder for myself. But this whole like people interested in wanting and inquiring and desiring, this is all God, man. This is like, I have no clue where it's going. I know, but like I go places, and I'm sure that I better have something on my trunk, because if somebody see me and knows me, I'm like, "Hey, bro, you got one of them hoodies?" Like, yeah. I might as well have them, because I get asked about them just about every time I go somewhere. So, and like this lady invited us to Linwood the other day. She has a store that she just bought. It's called Carol's Boutique or something in Linwood. She just got a whole bunch of ROE gear to put in her store.
Wow.
And she says, "Oh man, we're so excited about having your stuff up here in the North End." And I was like, "Yeah, great." Like, I didn't see that. I don't know. This is like the North End. I'm just Seattle, but there's other parts of this country than besides Seattle, and maybe it may go some places which I wouldn't be opposed to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no clue.
You just enjoy it, and kind of enjoying the ride. And,
I sure am.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. And you kind of said earlier that you put your wife in the driver's seat of kind of moving it along.
Absolutely, she's a marketing director, co-owner.
Yeah.
She's always, and I gotta tell him this too. So my wife she's crazy with the social media game, right? Before, so ROE, I had a Facebook page, but it was like 8 posts in like a year.
Yeah.
It was really not a factor. Yeah. And I was like, "Hey, so since I'm on social media, but I'm not like really killing it like that.
Right.
Much rather be interpersonal." But she is, and I was like, "Hey, so since you on there, why don't you just, can you help recovery of everything, social media wise?" And then she said, "Yeah," and she just started, and man, that thing is like, I look at it. There's some people coming to me and say, Darnell, man, I really liked your post. What post? Like, show me. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's dope.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, man, I really
Wow.
like that. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, that's my wife, man.
Yeah.
She's in charge of it, and I'm super proud of her, and she's maybe more passionate about it than I am at times, and it's just encouragement.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing, as you know, you two as a husband and wife. You know, you started, you bring her in the fold. Like, now we co-owners. I like how you said it. We co-owners now. We gonna build this together, and you recognize that he was onto something special.
Yeah.
And was like, let me be a part of this, and let's do this together. And so I think that's that's a beautiful piece of that too. Just to seeing you guys, do this and be able to make this happen, and it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
And what was that like for you? Just stepping into it, like, hey, I'm about to be running a brand now. Like, what was that like? What was that experience like for you?
So first off, to back up a little bit, before we were even dating, he was with the shirts, like selling them, and I seen it, and I was like, oh my God, do you make these? I need one. I totally related, like, based off what the story I just told you. And I was like, I need one. That is so dope. Like, I want one. I've never seen a recovery t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I needed one. And so I was already, like, feeling the idea.
Yeah.
And then, we got married, and he came out with the new logo, the ROE with the EKG. Yeah. And I was like, that's tight too. And he asked me to take it over, and I was like, so we're really going to do something with this. I can see this, like, going somewhere, so I'll do the social media. Like, I'll help you. He's more of, like, the, like, in-person, like, loving to meet people, and I'm kind of like, man, I'll do whatever you need me to, but I would prefer not to, like, be put out there like that. So he sells, I post, kind of thing. Like, I'm at the events with him, and he's like, baby, can you run this square? I got you. But as far as, like, going out and, like, seeking people, no way. Yeah. That's not me. It's just not my personality. So it works good. It works really well.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think that's a good place to end the interview. I want to say, you guys, I'm really excited for where this can go to. Like, I actually have an idea for you guys that I'm going to tell you guys off camera. But I think your message to people is that, if they put it first, then they can have the life that they want to have. And I think that's a beautiful piece. And I think that is something you guys have overcame a lot, and just being able to make that decision once you went through these things and say, enough is enough. We're gonna overcome this, and then take the steps, and then for the brand to kind of just, happen the way it did, and now to see where it's at, you got the right partner to help you, and so now you guys are just going, and this is something. These are the type of stories we need to hear in this community, because there's a lot of people who are secretly struggling with addiction and don't know that or don't believe that they can recover. So hearing you guys' story of all the things that you guys have overcome and been through, and here you are now saying, you know what, telling other people they can do this too, and they just got to make the effort. I think that is a beautiful thing. And I just want to say again, thank you guys for allowing me in your home, and thank you guys for doing this. This is really inspiring to me, so I really appreciate this.
Thank you for doing this.
Hey, no problem at all.